All right, let's get this party started. What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Alan. I am a New York-based hair artist specializing in custom color, blonding, cuts, extensions, and more, aka Finessed by Alan on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And if you're not new, what's poppin'? Welcome back. Now, today we are actually doing something a little bit different. In the last couple of videos, we went over a couple different transformations and my approaches to them. But in this video, we are actually going over something super important, not only for those types of transformations, but basically any type of color going forward. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is color theory. So like I said in the beginning of this video, I am a New York-based hairstylist. I have been doing hair professionally for about 4 years now. I say I've been doing hair professionally for 4 years, but I've really been doing it since I was in middle school. I started when I was in 7th grade. I really was obsessed with the idea of having blue hair ever since I was like 5 or 6 years old. And the second I was able to do it, I was unstoppable. I washed out the color, dried it up, and I was like, the world is not ready for Alan with blue hair. And honestly, they weren't. But what really got me into doing hair was color. When I was a lot younger, I saw somebody with blue hair and I became obsessed with the idea of having blue hair myself. But as I got older, I really wanted to experiment with some different colors and looks on myself, and a lot of them turned out absolutely horrific, horrible. I don't know who let me out of the house looking like that, looking all types of crazy. I got pics, but I don't know if y'all are ready to see how horrific these looks actually were. But honestly, a lot of the times the colors would not be turning out the way that I wanted them because, in all honesty, I did not know what I was doing. I just picked up any old color that I wanted to do on myself and just threw it on and hoped for the best. But obviously, going to beauty school and learning all the things that I needed to know as a professional hairstylist really taught me that what it really boiled down to was not understanding color theory as much as I thought I did. Now, I've always been a very creative person. I used to draw and paint a lot, so I did understand color theory, but I didn't understand that color theory also played a role in doing hair. And not understanding color theory meant that I didn't understand how certain colors were going to react to each other once it was put on the hair. And not either fully understanding color theory or not taking it into full account when doing hair meant that all these colors were working against each other, and I didn't understand that. So whether you're a hairstylist, an artist, or just somebody who's interested in color theory, you're gonna want to stick around for this video. So now let's talk about colors. There are 3 types of colors: primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. The primary colors are colors that you cannot mix with other colors to create them, and those are blue, red, and yellow. Those are primary colors. Now, getting into the secondary colors, those are the colors that you get by mixing 2 primary colors. And those colors are purple, green, and orange. You get the purple by mixing blue and red, you get the orange by mixing red and yellow, and you get the green by mixing yellow and blue, obviously. Secondary colors. And the tertiary colors are the colors that you get by mixing a secondary color and a primary color. So those are red orange, yellow green, blue violet, and red violet. And essentially, these are separated into warm and cool colors. As we grow up, we learn that the rainbow is Roy G. Biv. If we're going to separate this, Roy is warm and Jabov is cool. Now, warm colors tend to be a little bit more rich and vibrant, while cool colors tend to look a little bit deeper because they do not reflect light as well. Now, for the purpose of this video and trying to keep things as simple as possible, we're going to really focus on primary and secondary colors, but we're going to throw in some tertiary color info in there as well, just for funsies. So how does this apply when we're doing hair? When doing color, we are always trying to either counteract or enhance certain tones within the hair. All hair has an underlying warm pigment. If we're talking about dark brown, its underlying pigment is red. If we're going into medium brown, we're talking about orange. And if we're going into blonde, we are talking about yellow. And the tertiary colors come into play when you're getting in between those shades. So if you're going from a dark to a medium brown, you're met with some type of a red orange. And if you're in the area of medium brown to blonde, you're somewhere within the yellow orange range. So if we're trying to do something like neutralize these colors, as you can see, they're all on the color wheel. What we are going to do is find their complementary color as a way to bring them from one end of the color wheel back down to the center. Because when you mix the two, brings them back down to the middle, and the neutral color is going to be that brown or that gray, not necessarily intensely on one side or the other. So now, looking at the color wheel, if we are met with a red tone, the direct opposite of it is green. So let's say a client comes in and their hair is oxidizing a little bit red and they really don't like it. What are you gonna do? You're gonna introduce a green, because those are direct opposites on the color wheel. So now if you're looking at orange, the direct opposite color is blue. So if somebody comes in and their hair is getting brassy and it's looking a little orange, you're going to introduce a blue base in order to counteract that. And y'all already know what the last one is. If we are met with a yellow, we are going to introduce a purple or a violet base in order to neutralize that and bring all of these colors back down to the center. And I know we said we wouldn't focus on tertiary colors, but just for the sake of talking about complementary colors, let's talk about theirs as well. So if we were talking about yellow-green, the direct opposite color for yellow-green is red-violet. If we are met with a yellow-orange, we are going to use a blue-purple. And if we have a red-orange situation going on, we're going to mix a blue-green in order to counteract that and bring all of these colors once again to the center of the color wheel. But what it really boils down to is if you have a warm base, you're going to use a cooler tone to counteract that and neutralize it. And vice versa. It is super, super important as a hairstylist to understand the why behind doing color, and will come in handy way more than you realize. I've had clients come in with blue in their hair, pink in their hair, trying to be natural brown again, and doing looks like that can become really, really challenging if you don't understand the approach behind it. So, perfect example, I had a client recently come in with blue hair, and she wanted to make her look more natural. She was tired of the blue. She didn't really want to do too much highlight. She really wanted to look a little bit more natural brunette all over. So like I said, if you have a warm color, you're going to neutralize it with a cool. Now it is the direct opposite. If we are talking about a cool color, we are going to use a warm color to counteract it. So now let's talk about our approach to this look. Blue's complementary color is orange. So what we're going to do is use an orange base color to counteract the blue. But now talking about underlying pigment, in order to have that blue take really nice and be really vibrant, you have to lighten the hair to like a level 9-ish blonde. And what is the underlying pigment in blonde? It is yellow. Now there are ways to avoid this situation, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but for the purpose of right now, we're just going to talk about the underlying pigment and the color that we're met with. So now as the blue fades out, it's going to mix a little bit with that yellow, and what you're going to get is a blue-green. And what did we just talk about? Looking at the color wheel again, the opposite to green on the color wheel is red. So now we're going to have to get a little bit more creative in this situation and not only mix an orange, but mix a little bit of red in there as well, because the pigment that we're working with is still mainly blue, but we need a little bit of red in order to make sure that all of that blue-green is gone. So now usually with fashion colors like the vibrant blues, the pinks, the oranges, all the vibrant ones, they're usually semi-permanents, meaning there's no peroxide in them, not oxidative color, and it's really just sitting on top of the hair. Now you can counteract these tones using a semi-permanent again, but in this situation, I know I chose to use the demi-permanent, meaning it's going to get a little bit deeper in the hair, but it's not going to really alter anything within the hair. It's also just going to sit on top just a little bit deeper. The color stayed fine, good, and dandy, but keep these things in mind when you're doing color as well, just so you know how to approach them. Now her fade out was pretty light. I want to say the level was around a 7 or an 8. Now I typically use Goldwell at the salon, and I definitely went in with their 8OR orange red, like hello. And I want to say 8OR and 7kg, like a copper gold, but I honestly could be wrong, but I want to say it was a 7kg. But moral of the story, whatever the second color was, it was also a orange red base in order to counteract that blue green that was already in her hair. And after the glaze was done and we washed it out, it looked sickening and just like her natural color once again. Even though yes, we did a second glaze just to make sure everything was even, she was still a little bit darker, but if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be fixing the problem. We would really just be putting a band-aid over a bullet hole, and that blue would come out really, really quick. Her color would be like a blue-brown, essentially. But when you're working with fashion colors like blue, purple, whatever, and you're putting them over a blonde or a yellow base, even though it's not mandatory, this could help really impact the overall look that your client is going to see the day of and how it fades out. And that is something called pre-toning. And that is when you're going to counteract some of those unwanted warm tones. This way, as the color fades out, it doesn't look wonky, it doesn't look weird. It's just going to give you a really, really nice fade out. And this doesn't have to be done any types of crazy. You could achieve this with something as simple as just doing some purple shampoo right after a fresh bleaching. Call the hair police, I just said bleaching. But if you're doing something like a purple, blue, or green fashion color, understanding that the yellow is going to play a role in how the color looks and fades out is super, super important. Now, like I said, when the client came in after the blue in her hair faded away, it mixed with that yellow and it created a green. As the purple fades out, it's going to counteract the yellow and it could create like a nice sickening blonde, but sometimes it could look a little funky and a little bit wonky as it fades out. And if you're doing green, obviously yellow is a part of green anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal, but it could impact the way that the green fades out a little bit if you don't counteract some of those tones in the beginning. I mean, I've seen many people on TikTok and Instagram just taking that same semi-permanent color and mixing it with water and just throwing it on the hair for a few minutes just to create that nice neutral base to begin with. And some people like to do a glaze before they do a fashion color. It's really up to you and how you want to approach it. But just know that these situations, it's not always a one size fits all. You can be a little bit creative on how you do it. Now, if you're working with a green and you know that yellow is going to be super stubborn, maybe you want to mix a little bit more blue in your formula. This way, as the green fades out, it's still going to stay nice and vibrant green for your client. But doing this can make a huge impact on your client because when they see the color, it's going to stay nice and vibrant and the fade out is going to look gorgeous. gorgeous. But now moving on from fashion colors and the semi-permanents, let's talk about how this is going to impact your day-to-day at the salon. You know, everybody's coming in, they want their grays covered, their hair's looking crazy in the summer, it's turning red, orange, yellow, and they want their color to look snatched once again. So single processes and glazes should be approached with just as much color theory as if you're doing a highlight or if you're doing anything else. So when a client comes in wanting to cover their grays, it is super important to note their level of gray. Usually the percentages that it's gauged around are 30, 50, and 70 and beyond. So obviously if you're covering gray, usually what you're going to go in with is an NN. You could do like an NA, but for the argument's sake of this video, let's just stick with NN. So the higher the percentage of gray they have, the higher the chance that that NN is going to turn super warm in the hair. So what you could do as their stylist is add in a little bit more cooler ashy tones in order to counteract some of that warmth. So if they want like a natural brown, but they hate red, throw in a green base with your natural to make sure that that red is controlled, and as it oxidizes out, it is going to look a little bit nicer. Now, if they're a little bit lighter and they oxidize out to a little bit more of an orange, add in a little bit of a blue base to control some of that orange. This way the fade out is also really nice and cute. And if they're blonde and they come in, their hair is turning super, super yellow, especially in the summer with the sun, throw in a purple base to make sure that that yellow is nice and controlled and her color is looking sickening. Now, obviously take the information that I'm telling you and really marinate on it, but usually you don't have to. Most, if not all color lines usually come with a color chart, and that's going to tell you the underlying pigment in dark brown to blonde and what color to use to counteract these tones. And I know Goldwell lives for their color wheel, and on it, it'll have all the different formulas and all the different names of their colors on there, and it'll show you where on the color wheel that one falls. Redken's a little different. They just have everything on a chart, but it'll tell you this is a blue base, this is a purple base, so you don't have to sit there and guess. They'll tell you which one you're going to want to use. And it will obviously change based on the level of hair that you're working with in that moment, but once you figured out what level hair you're working with, then you could find out what the underlying pigment is and what the complementary color is to counteract certain tones. And of course, we have to talk about blonding, because obviously we do a lot of blonding on this channel. Not all highlights mean blonde. Blonde has been taking over the world recently. I want to say ever since The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives came out, but I could be really making that up. And those types of clients are not coming in for a platinum card vibe. They do not want icy blonde. They want something that's a little bit more natural to natural warm. And it is obviously a little bit deeper than something like a super platinum blonde vibe. Now, if you're aiming for a blonde vibe, typically the underlying pigment that you're going to be working with is around a yellow orange. So what are we going to do with that? We're going to add in a little bit of a blue purple base to kind of neutralize at least some of those tones. If they want something a little bit warmer, you could enhance it with some other colors. But for argument's sake, if we're just trying to neutralize it, we are going to use the blue purple base to bring it back to the center of the color wheel. Your approach is basically going to change from client to client, but is going to develop a lot as you grow and as you understand these theories a little bit better. But there are so many situations that you can encounter that can be really overwhelming. But understanding these concepts can make sure that those situations feel like a walk in the park for you. Because let's say a client comes in after years of jet black box dye in their hair. And obviously, what are they going to tell you? I'd like to be platinum blonde today, which clearly is not going to happen, but you know. So as you do a completely full, show-stopping, stunning, gorgeous highlight on them, it lifts out to bright red. And since we just talked about color theory, you are not going to go panic in the color room and pray to the hair gods. We're going to use what we know and handle this situation flawlessly. So in that situation, to neutralize some of that red, because they don't want to be bright fire truck red, we're going to do a green base to neutralize that. And even though it's not going to be a perfect platinum blonde, it's going to be a nice transitional blonde until their next service. Because obviously, you cannot take jet black box dye out in one sitting. Unless you want your hair on the floor, but I don't know about you guys, I don't want to do that to a client. And obviously, we are just talking about the basics here. These are just the color theory rules, and rules are meant to be broken. So as your knowledge grows and as you keep more tools in your back pocket, this is going to be a piece of cake and you can be a little bit more creative with the colors, but understanding the basics will build you a nice foundation in order to understanding color that much better. But that pretty much wraps up today's video. I think I've said all that I want to say about color. I really wanted to make this video because I feel like doing some of these transformations, sometimes the colors can get a little bit confusing, and this way it'll help you guys understand my approach a little bit better as I continue to put out more transformations. But if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it and drop a comment down below with your thoughts. Subscribe to my channel, join the fam, and ring the little bell icon to make sure that you stay up to date with all the videos that I'm putting out, because I got tons more coming your way. And if you hated this video, also feel free to like it and drop a comment down below with your thoughts. Sound off in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But thank you guys so much for checking this video out. I really appreciate it, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.